Hey everyone, it's Sensei Victoria Whitfield here, your journey partner in business, welcoming you back to episode 129 of the Journeypreneur Podcast. This is your source for channeled holistic stress management techniques, guidance, inspiration, and motivation to stay on your path to rapid financial ascension and massive impact as a conscious entrepreneur. So in this podcast episode, I get the honor of introducing you to a dear friend of mine who I've known for years and years. We connected through a group coaching program for our businesses, and how things have changed over the years. Welcome to the podcast, Jeannie Spiro.
Thank you so much for having me, Victoria. I'm thrilled to be here and with everybody.
Yay. I love it. And you can find Jeannie at JeannieSpiro.com, JeannieSpiro.com. She's a business strategist for women business owners, especially going from the 6 figures to 7 figures mark, right? I know myself personally, this is a very intense time period and it involves a lot of retooling. So Jeannie, welcome, goddess, but especially someone listening in right now, this may be the very first time that they're getting to meet you. So could you tell us a little bit more about what you do, but especially what are the 3 things that you're known for?
Okay, I'm so happy to be here. And I am, yes, a business coach and strategist. And I work mainly with midlife women business owners who've been scaling to 6 and then they're moving their business to 7 figures. And typically they're in the client-based field. And so all of my experience typically is in coaching and client-based businesses. So I would say what I'm best known for are a couple of things. One in particular is lead generation through speaking, both online and offline, and creating transformational events and experiences. Usually they're more boutique style events. And the third thing is general revenue generation. So how to take and make more money, how to start and then expand and keep growing into multiple 6 figures and eventually 7 figures.
Fabulous! I love it. I love it. Oh, this is so good. And this makes me curious though, because with those 3 things in particular, you have got to have a story behind you, how you got here. I'm curious, what was it that inspired you to really focus on midlife women entrepreneurs, helping them strategize this really powerful transition? Did something happen where you had this epiphany of, I'm going to start a business or I'm going to be the strategist? Tell me what happened there.
Absolutely. So it happened for me at midlife. So in my 30s, I was working for someone. I was actually working for an agency at the time. And the agency I was working for, there were 3 partners, and one of them passed away suddenly. He was a 52-year-old man. He passed away suddenly in our office, and he left behind a wife and 4 children. And not only was I about 20 feet from where he passed, he was my mentor. He was my boss. I worked with him every single day. I traveled with him, and I was impacted in every possible way imaginable. And I thought, obviously afterward, I went through this sort of crisis point of, what does my life mean? What should I do with myself? I can't work to the same degree. I can't work like he was working. And so it was sort of like my midlife reinvention that happened from that. I went through a process of healing. I went through a process of self-discovery. I went through this it took years in many ways to recover from that. And part of what I want to say, what was really challenging about that was after he passed, I went to work for a different agency and I was sued from the remaining bosses that worked there. And for 3 years, I lost confidence in myself. I lost my ability to communicate. Everything that I was strong in, I had to rebuild. So I lost income, I lost confidence, I lost certainty, all of it at one time. I was sued for something that I never even did. And ultimately, I was fine, but it was the most anxious, horrible time in my life because I just didn't have any certainty about what I was doing, who I was, how I was going to make money, and what each day was going to look like. So I made it a mission to help other women really develop something that was mission driven, passion driven. And ultimately, I found my sense of purpose again in creating a business. So that's why I'm so passionate about what I do.
This is amazing. So, wow. Like 20 feet away from literally losing your mentor.
Yeah.
Then the devastation of being sued for something you didn't even do,
Yeah.
to the reinvention of finding purpose and serving and uplifting that's the sisterhood around you who are going through massive transition as well. Like
Yeah.
that, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like I was given this divine gift, of realizing, okay, I've got to wake up. So Jeannie, you're going along on autopilot. It's kind of like what we're dealing with in the world right now. I was going along on autopilot, not necessarily happy, maybe a little bit numb, you could say. And then what ended up happening was, okay, like the universe delivered this experience, and I sort of had to awaken at that moment. And I sort of look at it like, okay, as horrible as it was, as awful as it was at what happened to him and his family, it was like how I interpreted was, what am I going to do now? How am I going to change my life? And how am I going to help other people do the same? So I've been on this path for several years to be able to make a difference. And I love the work that I do because it's so transformational, and it gives me purpose every single day.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, was that a conscious choice you made to, like, in the face of devastation, rather than to just kind of yield and be like, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing? Like, was it a conscious decision to say, what am I learning? How am I reinventing myself right now? Like, can you take me
Yeah.
more into the mindset of that? I'm curious.
So I've always believed in threes. And so whenever something happens in threes, I'm like, all right, what's the sign, right? So I had 3 events that occurred at one time. So one event, it was kind of like, oh, maybe I don't have to make this change yet. But by the third one, it did. So the 3 that happened, um, the death, the lawsuit, and then an illness. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, what happened was, after the lawsuit, after I got this, I was served and all of this sort of thing, I was completely freaked out. I was like, I could barely rebound from this loss. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't do anything to violate it. But, you're suddenly in panic mode, right? Like I was just dealing with this constant like level of anxiety, in a sense of like, oh my gosh, what could happen next? And I had an accident. My kids were playing soccer. We were at a tournament, and I tripped and I fell over a chain link fence. I was running to the car and I tripped and I fell. And what would have ordinarily been like no big deal ended up being, I was so consumed with all these other things, weeks later, and turned into a staph infection. And I had to go to the hospital, and I was on antibiotics. I kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And I spent a whole year trying to recover from what had happened, all of those things that were going on. And finally I said, what am I doing? Like, why am I doing this to myself? And it was that those 3 events together that made me realize I needed to make a change in my career. I needed to make a change in my health and wellness. I needed to figure out what my purpose was. So that was my trifecta of awareness and changing things.
Yeah. So this is so powerful because you decided to see the signs. Like 3 is my favorite number. Like,
Yeah.
I was born in the 3rd month of the year. Like, so I'm 3. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Right there with you, goddess. And there's this interesting thing that I see, I've seen in myself, as well as my clients that I've been journeying with over the years, is that signs will keep popping up, And because I'll put it on me, because I'm being so productive
Yeah.
and so focused, I'll be like, no, doesn't have anything to do with it, or I'll get to that later. I'm not going to pay attention to that, or this, let me push through. I'm an achiever. It's actually in my strengths finder. So like when some of the signs start popping up for me, like I'll kind of bat them to the side. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that we're talking about this right now, during for whenever people are watching or listening into this, like we're right now in the height of the coronavirus-ness. And Jeannie, you were talking about that constant state of anxiety, right? And that makes me think of that tunnel vision that I would have, that I can get into absolutely when I'm trying to make a way out of no way, trying to grow my business, trying to help my family out, right? Trying to be, like a good partner in
Yeah.
my relationship. And was there a point when you were in that cycle of anxiety where you had the opportunity to throw in the towel? I don't know if it was maybe, I've worked myself into the hospital and still kept trying to work. So like that for me wasn't like my throw in the towel moment. But did you ever have like an opportunity where you're like, you know what, maybe I'm not cut out, like, you know what, maybe I'm just not cut out for this? What did you tell yourself? Like what happened? Could you tell us?
So a couple things. Part of what I found in this process was I called myself like not even I was like not even a half a woo, right? Like I was I didn't know anything. I wasn't even sort of awakened in any capacity at that point. I didn't really practice religion. I didn't think about spirituality. I was so focused on raising a family and working that I started to see signs. I started to look into them. I started to think about them more. And so during that time period, I was dipping in between all of these levels of worry and concern and nervousness, like what was going to happen to my family? Was I going to be okay? Was I going to say the wrong things? Because I had a gag order at the same time. So it was like, I couldn't, every time I tried to take a step forward, I felt like I went backward. And so I was sort of living with this constant, like, kind of like what we're dealing with in this time right now. Like, is it okay to be in business? Is it okay to sell? Should you not put something out there? And then at the same time, you're worrying about health and safety. So I was sort of like swirling around in this constant tornado. And sometimes I was like making ground, and sometimes I was like up in the air. That's the only way I could think about it. And I remember at one point I'd asked my boss at the time when I was went to work for my new boss. I said to him, what will happen if something happens to you? What if you pass away like my last boss? Because I went to work for a single entrepreneur at that point. And he said, I just want you to know that I've set up my business in a way that will still protect your job security, even if something happens. And I thought, oh, okay, wait a minute. So it was like the first time I actually learned something from someone, an entrepreneur, that this was possible. Because I'd always worked for organizations, corporations, and so forth. And it was like a settling moment for me in a time where I thought, okay, you know what? There is a way through this. And so he became my mentor, my new mentor. And he was I know I'm kind of digressing a little bit, but so he was in wealth management and I was in health insurance and employee benefits. And so he hired me to work with him. And so after I had sort of tried to figure out what I was going to do and who I was going to work with, I went to work with him. And he said to me, I'm still in wealth management. You're going to handle employee benefits, which is what I did. And yet I was going with him and watching him all the time working with small business owners. And he was mentoring them. So for 9 years, while I was figuring out sort of what I was doing in this process, I was watching him mentor small business owners on their wealth, their finances, their marketing, their businesses overall. And I called it my MBA in working for somebody else, because I learned through thousands and thousands of conversations how to be able to create sustainability, success, how to market, how to sell, how to thrive, how to make money, how to make better money choices. So I've started to, instead of being nervous and afraid all the time, I started looking at, what am I learning? What am I gaining from this? And ultimately, he knew I wanted to start my own business. And while I was working for him, he said, go ahead, start your own business. And I did it in full sight with him, still supporting his business while growing my own. And it was like an amazing gift that I got to be able to have that opportunity happen, that I could get the education, get the support, and that he supported a small woman-owned business to be able to thrive and support other small businesses as well. It was like the coolest thing. So I'm just grateful, really, truly. He's still in my life today.
Oh my God, that's magnificent. And that actually, your story warms my heart, because that's actually how I got to start my business as well. My intuitive mentor, Patrick LaRue, shout out if he sees this or listens in, studying with him directly, turned to the side and said, you know what, you have a gift, Victoria. Why don't you start your business too? To have someone to see that in you and just activate the permission slip.
Totally.
Change my life. I can see it in your eyes too, Jeannie. Change. It's life-changing.
Life-changing. Yeah. Because he gave me a start. He gave me the foundation, and then he said, I'll support you on this mission. Who does that? And that's why I love being able to do the same, to reciprocate, to give back in any way I possibly can too. Yay. We're so aligned.
Awesome. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Is he still in business? Can we give him a shout out?
Yeah, we can sort of do it through we can, but
Got it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Right now, someone could be listening or watching in and be like, you know what? Jeannie sounds exactly like what I need right now. She's been through the ringer and she knows how to support me as a female business owner, taking things to the next level, especially during a time of high uncertainty, just like right now. And in my heart, I believe that our people who are divinely contracted, to work with us, they're looking for us. Yeah. And I don't believe that there's any such thing as a coincidence. She may be listening in right now. And with that being said, I believe in celebrating and connecting. How can, if she's listening to this podcast or watching this broadcast right now, how can she connect with you, Jeannie, and celebrate all of what you're doing in the world? Tell me, where are we going? How do we connect?
Yes, absolutely. So I just want to go back one quick moment, because I just want to help women understand that we as business owners go through these moments, especially because we're wired. We want to be entrepreneurs, but we go through uncertain times. So even in moments of uncertainty, we're sort of used to it. We're wired for it. And so it's learning how to navigate the waters during these times. And so I work with women who are catalysts, who are change makers, who are conscious individuals. Many of them resonate, or they may show up as a coach, or they may show up as a client-based business owner, but underneath they're light workers, they're change makers. And so I most want to help them get their work into the world and be able to continue with their mission. So you'll spend a lot of time with me online and Facebook. I'm at Jeannie Spiro on Facebook, or they can find me at jeanniespiro.com. And I've been blogging and writing for many, many years. So I hope they can consume all the free information I have on my site.
Beautiful. I love it. And so here's the thing, if you're listening in right now, turning it over to my listeners, and you're feeling attracted and connected to her, please go read the blog. It's amazing. It's amazing. Do not underestimate that. We put a lot of energy into our free content as light workers and as business owners out there to serve. And you would be surprised what you can uncover in there. There's no need to just jump in and be like, well, let me get on our calendar. Read and absorb the information first, because there may be what you were looking for right there. And that'll really help you connect to the brand and to the vision so that you can lift yourself up. And when you're ready, Jeannie, is there any part of the website in particular they could go to, like, call, or if there's
Yes.
downloadable?
Absolutely. So I have one resource. And so, as you know, I spend a lot of time helping women in particular get their message out into the world. And so I do that in a variety of ways. Mostly right now, I'm having my clients focus on virtual speaking opportunities that allow them to share their message. And on top of it, I still want people. I've been teaching women for many years how to use speaking as a strategy in all these different ways to do this, whether it's through events, whether it's through live platforms or virtual platforms. So I have a resource. It is a guide that teaches how you can generate leads through speaking. And there are 3 different strategies that I talk about. One is through events, and typically they're transformational experiences. Another one would be through virtual experiences, and one would be through live experiences, like speaking on the people's platforms. So they can go ahead and grab that tool. It's a resource. It's at jeanniespiro.com/guide. And I walk through the scenarios, how to do it, and how you can put these tools to generate leads and share your message in your business. So I'd love for them to grab that.
Fabulous. It's a fine art being able to weave that magic into the event, right, or the virtual event, making sure that you're able to speak and connect with your people. So go ahead, get that at jeanniespiro.com/guide. Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing so abundantly, Jeannie. This has been wonderful. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Victoria, and everyone. I love being here. It's so fun to share space and time with you.
Yay, likewise. Alrighty, so turning it over to our listeners now. If this is your first time listening in on the Journeypreneur Podcast, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Please make sure you hit subscribe on iTunes so that you get the notifications first every time we come out with a new episode. And while you're at it, if you haven't yet, I want to hear your story. When you go leave your 5-star review, there's a wonderful little box there where you can type in the comments. And this is episode 129. And so I would love to hear, what was the one nugget that stood out the most to you from Jeannie's story? What touched your heart and really helped lift you up on your journey? I would love to hear that. And thanks to all of our supporters. Thank you for those who already have reviewed. I've had a wonderful time reading through all of your stories and bonding with you on this journey we call business. Yes, yes. So with that being said, we're going to bring this podcast episode to a close with the same mantra I say every time, and it is, please enjoy the journey. Do not lose your glow as you grow in life and business. And we'll see you in the next podcast episode. Bye for now.